Hi everyone, I'm Quentin Schultz, the author of the book An Essential Guide to Public Speaking. I taught public speaking for many years. I've given many speeches. I continue to speak. In fact, I'm at home right now in my living room preparing for 2 speeches that I'll be giving later this week. I love public speaking. I get many questions. Among the most popular questions I get are, how can I get over my saying of and and you know and like. I say these things all the time. Sometimes people even tell me their bosses or their spouses have complained that they say these things, even in everyday conversation, not just when they're public speaking. But in public speaking, they are deadly. They interfere. They're like noise, and you want to get rid of these things. We call them verbal fillers. Verbal fillers. It's like you have a little bit of space, a little bit of time in your speaking, and suddenly you throw in and then you go on. Verbal fillers. We don't need them. Now, before I tell you how to get rid of them, and you can get rid of them, before I tell you that, let me tell you why you don't need them. You don't need them because empty space, silence in your speaking is not bad. I just used it a couple of times to show you how good it can be. Silence while we're speaking is actually respecting the listeners. It's respecting the audience. We give them time so that they can ponder a little bit what it is that we're saying. They can process it. Silence allows us as the speaker to respect the audience so much that we let the audience think in their time about what it is that we're saying. Now, if it's too long, let's say it becomes 15, 30 seconds long and we still don't know what we're going to say, then it gets embarrassing. And that's when we start to get quite anxious and the audience begins to wonder, do we really know what we're talking about? But overall, gaps can be used very effectively because they help the audience ponder what it is that we are saying. They can process it then at their own pace. They can think of examples and illustrations from their own lives that connect with what we're saying. So it's wonderful. Don't be afraid of silence as long as it's not too long. Okay, so how do we get rid of these verbal fillers, these, what do you call them? How do we get rid of them? You get rid of them in your public speaking by getting rid of them in your everyday discourse with other people, in your conversations. Whether you're on the phone or in person, doesn't make any difference. That's how you get rid of them. It's very difficult to say in your life, well, I'll let them continue in my everyday conversation, but then I'll get rid of them when I go into public speaking. Believe me, it's not going to happen. I've never had a single client for whom that worked. I've always used the approach I'm going to tell you right now, and it will work if you do it. Here's the trick. You need a couple of friends, people that you spend a fair amount of time with. And you need to go to them and say, here's my problem, and I need your help with it. I want to eliminate these verbal fillers. I think I say and you know and like and too much. And I want to become better in my speech and better in my public speaking, better in my group presentations. Will you help me? And of course, everybody's going to say yes. In fact, they might say, if you'll help me too. And then you say, every time I use one of these, would you point it out to me? Just stop me. Not if I'm in a presentation, not if I am speaking, but just in the everyday discourse. Just stop me and say, hey, you just said one. I just had this today with a friend who I was having a conversation with, and he knows that I do public speaking. And he said, would you help me with this? I said, sure. And so then we carried on a conversation. He was telling me a couple of things going on in his life, and bang, he used an And I said, whoop, right there. He said, yeah, I did. And then he used a couple of ahs, a couple more yums. ums in our conversation, and I thought, okay, he's on the road. I wish I were with him more often. So we need a friend or two around us who can point them out. And then the second part of the secret of getting rid of these verbal fillers is this. We need to pay attention to ourselves. Pay attention to ourselves. And this means for about 1 week, it will only take you 1 week, you need to really pay attention. Every day you get up in the morning, put a little sticky note on the mirror, okay? If you need to, put one on your phone. So whenever you look at your phone, you see it and it reminds you, I'm going to pay attention to when I use them, and I'm going to start killing them off myself. You have to start paying attention. Otherwise, you'll be right back into using them. So you have 1 or 2 friends, you have the sticky notes, the reminders to yourself, and every time you use one, you say, whoop, there I go again. Keep going without it. Keep going without it. This will take you about 1 week. If you have a couple of friends and you use the sticky notes for yourself, it'll take about 1 week, and you'll suddenly find out, wow, I'm using more of these than I thought, and I'm starting to eliminate them. That second week, you'll probably hardly use them at all, but leave the sticky notes in place. Because what happens over time is you then have a habit of not using them, and the habit of not using the verbal fillers replaces the habit of using them, and they disappear over time. One of the funny things that happens when I go out speaking now, because I've written this book on public speaking, is the people who know I've written the book will come and they'll make notes on how many verbal fillers that I use. Little check marks, you know. This happens especially if I go to a college or university and the students from the classes come and they say, oh, we use this guy's book. Let's see how many verbal fillers he really uses. And then I go into some classes and speak afterwards, and they say, you didn't use any verbal fillers. How did that happen? How can you do that? And I tell them what I just told you. It works. You can eliminate these things. You don't need you don't need them. Kill them off. You'll be a better public speaker. You'll be a better conversationalist. And you'll be less afraid and less fearful in all of your public speaking, because you have seen yourself accomplish something really worthwhile. It's small, but it makes a big impact in your speaking. Well, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to this channel. Below you'll see a link to my book, a link to my website if you want to personally connect with me, and also let me know just post here any questions that you have about public speaking. And in this little stream on my channel, I will be glad to answer them. Thanks very much. This is Quentin Schultz. Great public speaking to you without any ums and ahs.